Okay, my next task is to deal with the lips. What I want to be able to do here is have again a non-destructive retouch that is going to give shape, some volume to the lips, maybe change colour. We'll explore changing colour afterwards if we need to, subtle changes. But what I want to originally do is just make them more prominent. So it's not going to be a surprise really that we're going to use the same kind of mechanism that I've used for most of the things. We're not going to use tools, we're not going to use a dodge and burn tool, develop my own tool for doing this. So it's quite a simple thing really. First of all, again, we start off with a layer group. I go into here and I'll just call that lips. What we now do, select the background so I can look at the channels of what we're working on at the moment. I'm looking for a channel that has got the greatest difference or the greatest detail shift between the flesh tone. I want the flesh tone to be as light as I can get it, but with the lips to be the darkest. And when we use that criteria to go and look at the lips, we'll just zoom up here. If I go to the red, you can see it's all very, very flat. If I go to the green, there's good step between this area and this area here. The lips are much darker than the flesh tone. If I go to the blue, then the flesh tone is obviously darker, so they're a similar density. So that's not working for me. So I can't use the red, I can't use the blue, so clearly I'm going to use the green. What I'm going to do here, again, probably won't be a surprise now, is I'm just going to move that over and I'm just going to go to calculations. When I come into calculations, what I want to do is say I want to take the green, I'm going to say merged, so that I'm using the merged, all the layers collectively, showing me the green channel with all of the layers applied. Green and the green, either multiplied or overlaid. Now, overlay is probably my favourite, I use it the most, but I don't use it every single time. I start off by looking at overlay, and obviously also I would be looking in a normal positive mode for this, because I want to use this to make it darker. I need to use it as a negative. I want to make the lips darker and protect the outside flesh tone. I'm just going to say invert. This now is going to restrict the amount of darkness that happens in here and allow the darkness to happen inside here. The thing is how much detail is in this shadow area that for me is the deciding factor, and it's a very simple choice. I'm either going to use overlay or multiply, and all I'm going to do is now choose multiply, wait for it to update so I can see what it's going to look like in this area. Okay, so by doing this, you can now see that I've got a lot more detail in here now, a lot more curve coming around here. Now that's going to transpose in more curve when I use it as a mask with my adjustment layer. So either one will be okay. It's just that you'll get a slightly more or less refined effect depending on which one you use. I want a more subtle effect in this case, so I'm going to use a mask that gives me more subtlety. So I just again choose selection here. So again, I'm just using a green and a green multiplied as an invert, as a negative, and just say okay. I just go back to my lips group, choose now my curve, and when I now select the curve, it then transfers that curve. If I move this out of the way so you can see, it now transfers that selection that I made into the adjustment layer, the layer mask for that adjustment layer. So when I move the curve, it's going to be going through that negative mask. So what I'm going to do is just place my cursor at 50-50 in the middle, and then again put my cursor in there as I did before, hold down the shift key and use the arrow key. The reason for holding down shift is that if I don't hold down shift and I move it, it goes in 1% increments, which are very boring. Hold down shift and it goes in 10, 20, 30. When I'm applying this, I always overcook it. I always make it a lot darker than I think I ever need it, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'm just going to say okay. So now you can see that I've got a much fuller set of lips here, but it's worked on everything. But yet again, the same as all the previous ones, what we now do to fix that is that I just go to the group for the lips, hold down the Alt key, I click on the layer mask. That gives me a negative layer mask. Go to my brush. Let's zoom up the lips so we can see what we're doing. Get a slightly smaller brush, make it 50% strength by hitting 5 on the keyboard. Painting white on this alpha channel up here now just allows that shape to come through. But you can see there's no flattening of the detail here, it's just perfectly kind of rendition, so we get a really full, even slightly more glossy set of lips. Now it just looks like she's got lipstick on, or fresh lipstick. But it's totally in keeping with the rest of the image. And even if I draw outside here on the flesh tone area, nothing happens because the mask underneath is masking that. Very slightly something happened, but only about 5%. So it means that I don't have to be accurate when I'm actually applying this. It's just a mechanism. So what we can do now is just turn off, turn on. Let's put it back in context so we can see the whole thing. You can see that they're probably way too much for what I want here. But because we've constructed this with an alpha channel on an adjustment layer, I double click on here and I can then just go back to 80, take that back to 50 by holding down the shift key, and then just look at the lips and just say 10, 20, I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I can then turn it off, turn it on, and have a look at what we've done. So just as a little recap, let's turn off all the layers of our retouch so far. Lines, getting rid of the hotspot or minimizing the hotspot, lightening the image, and then putting the lips on, all non-destructive. That's the whole point of this. So that's how I do lips.